Greetings, colleagues. I hope you are all enjoying the camaraderie and beautiful scenery of Crete. Sorry that I'm not able to join you in person, but thank you, Peter Magnuson, for giving me the opportunity to share a few words about the Journal of International Marketing with you. And what a great idea, Peter, that you're bringing together current and past editors of the journal. I'm happy to speak and share a few words about the origins of Journal of International Marketing as the founding editor. And there are some interesting aspects some of us may not have heard, so I'll bring that up. Actually, when we think about the origins of the Journal of International Marketing, there is a precursor. Precursor is the International Marketing Review, which actually served as the precursor to Journal of International Marketing. It was early 1980s when myself and other colleagues started thinking about the need for a specialized journal in international marketing. We felt that there was not enough space in the existing journals to dedicate to international topics. And I've had conversations with folks like Hans Torelli, John Ryan, Susan Douglas, and others who encouraged me to think about starting a journal. And it was at the same time I got a call from the UK, from one of my colleagues, Professor Malcolm MacDonald of Cranfield. Malcolm has now retired, but he's still around. It was 1983. And Malcolm said, well, I'm starting a new journal. In fact, I did start a new journal, and Emerald Press agreed to publish it. I would love for you to be the co-editor. And recognizing that many submissions would come from North America, a much larger scholarly community, Malcolm asked me to come along with him, which I did. And I remember 1983, 84, the first year of the International Marketing Review, we published 4 issues and then carried on for another decade or so, almost a decade. IMR quickly became a top journal with wide audience. There was one problem though. In the meantime, as it became successful and well-read and well-circulated around the world and university libraries, the publisher decided to see it as a cash cow and increase the annual subscription rate from something like £250 a year, 4 issues a year at the time, to £500 a year. Then another 6 months later, £1,000, and this went on until £2,000. And we felt that this was not in the best interest of the scholarly community. The journal was becoming inaccessible because of the high subscription price. So again, with some leading colleagues, I started thinking about starting our own journal and thinking about a university press. And at the time, I asked the Michigan State University Press, which was very interested in launching a new journal with us. That was 1993. So almost 10 years later, after the IMR, founding of the IMR. So almost everybody on the editorial board of IMR resigned with me, and we started the Journal of International Marketing under the auspices of Michigan State University Press. And we published, again, 4 issues a year. And during the 1990s, we saw rapid growth of international business and international marketing. We saw a continuous flow of manuscripts as IB education became even more prevalent in US and international schools. We saw many doctoral programs, for example, generating and graduating international marketing scholars. Journal of International Marketing then, in the early 1990s, quickly became the to-go outlet, the major journal, and many major indexing agencies disseminated it and gained much credibility, much circulation around the world. But then those of you who know me know well that I never intended to be a permanent or indefinite editor of Journal of International Marketing. I enjoy being at the front end of innovations and then move on to the next challenge. So in 2000, or I think it was about 2000, maybe a year earlier, I took a short drive from East Lansing campus of Michigan State University to Ann Arbor campus of the University of Michigan, and sat down with my colleague, Tom Kinnear, Professor Tom Kinnear, marketing professor at the University of Michigan, who then was the AMA vice president for publications. Tom Kinnear and I sat down together. He knew about the Journal of International Marketing. He had seen many issues and was very impressed. Tom had something in mind. Tom said that, well, Tamer, I started Journal of Marketing and Public Policy and became very successful. And then I never intended to be a permanent editor, indefinite editor anyway. So I sold it to AMA for $1. Why don't you do the same? So that was an offer I could not refuse. I was looking for a way out at the time, and I thought that, well, institutional affiliation of the AMA and credibility and visibility that it would bring, I think would serve us well. So I did the same thing that Tom Kinnear did with the Journal of Marketing and Public Policy. Then consulting with the editorial board, we sold the Journal of International Marketing copyright to the American Marketing Association for $1. By the way, they still owe me that $1 because they never figured out how to pass that on to me. But I think that transition was very timely, added a lot to the, again, credibility, visibility of the journal, and it took a burden off of my shoulders as I was looking for a way out. And Jim and AMA affiliation served well. I think the journal has become a major landmark in the portfolio of the AMA, perhaps second or third largest circulating journal. And the rest, as they say, is history, better told by my colleagues, Bodo, Dan, David, Kostas, and now Kelly. If I can reflect for a couple of minutes, maybe less than that, as Peter said, 3 minutes or less, I'm pleased to say the papers we published in the first 7 years of the Journal of International Marketing were really remarkable. In a sense, they were pioneering pieces. It opened up, I think, new research streams that had not been circulating before, had not been seen before, and still continue today. Another, I think, satisfaction, gratification I take, reflecting about the early years of the Journal of International Marketing, it really gave a kickstart to the academic careers of many young colleagues, many doctoral students, many early career researchers who had their very first papers published in the Journal of International Marketing, which then led them to gain tenure or promotion in their respective universities. It also, I think, the Journal of International Marketing did motivate many business scholars to carry on international marketing research. And I think it really built a huge community. I remember early years of the journal, we had over 300 folks who were members of the editorial board or occasional reviewers of the editorial board. So early on, we had several hundred faculty from around the world. And speaking of around the world, JIM also established itself as an internationally circulating, visible journal. It didn't just cater to the needs of US-based scholars, North American-based scholars, but it attracted and published many papers from colleagues from Europe, Asia, and elsewhere. And in fact, early papers on emerging markets were published in Journal of International Marketing. If you go back, early papers on China or Brazil or India were published in the Journal of International Marketing. We did some innovations. For example, the managerial insights corner of the journal, I think, was much needed at the time. It fulfilled the initial promise of the positioning of the Journal of International Marketing as a refereed scholarly journal, but with practical relevance. So I think that's all I will say at the time. I look forward to listening perhaps later on to the recording of this session, Peter, if that's possible, and perhaps having the same session at the next year's Global SIG conference. With that, have a good day. Enjoy yourself.